Oh, hi! I was just eating some cereal for breakfast and reading There's No Ham in Hamburgers, Facts and Folklore About Our Favorite Foods by Zachman. That's me, I'm the author. I was reading the chapter about cereals because it's neat how the Kellogg brothers invented cereals. It's a cool story. Do you want to hear it? Great! All right, well, there were two brothers, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg and his brother Will Keith Kellogg. Dr. John Harvey was a doctor, and he opened the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan in 1878. Will Keith worked there too and helped him. So the sanitarium, which was called the San for short, was a kind of a cross between a fancy hotel and a hospital. And people would go there to feel better. They weren't feeling so good, and sometimes they'd stay for weeks. Well, back then, people didn't eat very healthy diets. They ate a lot of meat and very little fruits or vegetables. And it caused digestive issues. They couldn't poop. So the doctor would try to help them with a really healthy diet. So Dr. John and Will Keith were Seventh-day Adventists. And Seventh-day Adventists believe that the human body should get plenty of exercise and rest and a very healthy diet, usually plant-based. And they say no caffeine, no alcohol, and no smoking. And Dr. John didn't like sugar either. So one of the things that Will Keith did was he helped in the food store. They made their own healthy foods there at the San to feed to their patients, but they also sold the food so when the patients went home they could take it with them. Dr. John Harvey was one of the first people to make peanut butter, but that's a different story, and that's in the peanut butter chapter. So one of the things they'd been trying to make for years and years and years was ready-to-eat cereal. Dr. John had that idea when he was in college because he lived in a little boarding room in a boarding house and he didn't have access to a kitchen. And he wanted oatmeal, but he didn't have any place to cook it. And he thought, wow, it'd be so great if we had cereal that we could just eat right out of the box. So they've been trying to come up with it for several years. Well, one day they were trying to make some new wheat crackers, and they had some wheat dough, and they forgot it, and they left it on the stove. Well, it got stale. So the next morning when they go and they get that wheat dough, they realize it's kind of stale, but they thought, let's try it anyway. They ran it through the rollers to make crackers out of it, but it didn't work. It got all flaky and crumbly. And they thought, let's go ahead and bake that and see what happens. Well, it was good. They were crunchy, but not too crunchy, and they tasted great. And the brothers were like, yay, we finally got that ready-to-eat cereal we've been trying to get for so many years. And they started selling it at the store at the San. Well, Dr. John was a super busy doctor. He had all these patients he had to care for. Will Keith started thinking, I think I can make that recipe better. So he started experimenting with the flakes. And he found out that corn worked better than wheat. He also found out if he added some sugar, the flakes stayed fresher longer and they tasted better. Now, Will Keith is like, he's onto something here. He wanted to sell the corn flakes to everybody, not just in the store at the San. He wanted to sell them at all grocery stores, and he thought people will really love this if they only know about it. So he went to Dr. John. He's like, we need to advertise this and we need to sell these corn flakes. Then Dr. John found out that Will Keith had put sugar in the recipe. He flipped out. He was so angry. He'd spent his whole medical career telling people, don't eat sugar, don't eat sugar, don't eat sugar. And his own brother put sugar in the cornflakes. He was so mad. Will Keith was mad. They had a big argument. Will Keith quit his job at the San, went across town, and opened up the Battle Creek Toasted Flake Company. Oh, that was a really long name. I think they figured out pretty quickly that's not going to fit on a cereal box very well. So he changed the name to Kellogg's. Well, that made Dr. John even madder. Anyway, those two brothers didn't speak after that. But they started a revolution in breakfast. There's so many cereals companies were making cereals. Just like today, when you walk down the grocery store aisle, you see all these kinds of cereals. It really changed how America ate breakfast, especially kids. Kids love breakfast cereals, and they were eating a lot of it. Well, in the 1930s, around the time of the Great Depression, there was a lot of illness in children because they weren't getting enough vitamins and minerals. Rickets was common, and another disease called pellagra was common. Well, the American Medical Association said, hey, cereal makers, why don't you throw some vitamins in that cereal while you're making it? It won't hurt anything. And they did. They started adding vitamins. And one of the things they added was iron, because iron is really important for our red blood cells to carry oxygen. And if you don't have enough iron, you're anemic. So they did. They started adding things into the cereals. And guess what? I can show you the iron in cereal right now. Come on. So this is one of the experiments in my book. So you can take the cereals and read the labels and see how much iron is in them, because it varies from cereal to cereal. And I ended up picking to use Total for my experiment because it has the most iron of these 3 cereals. And it's real easy, but you're just going to get a bowl. I use the back of a ladle and I just crush. It's kind of fun to crunch. And you get it crunched up until it's a nice fine powder. And you're going to put it on a white piece of paper and just shake it out like that. Now you need a fairly strong magnet. A refrigerator magnet's not quite strong enough. I got this from a name tag. You know there's a name tag that they put on the magnets? That's what this is from, and it works. And you're going to take your magnet and just really carefully, without touching the cereal, just wave that magnet across the cereal. And this is what you get. You can see the little bits of iron on there. And it's really cool. So that's, like I said, one of the experiments in my book. Each chapter, and there's 10 chapters about 10 different foods, like hamburgers, hot dogs, pizza, ice cream. Each chapter either has a recipe or an experiment like this. And you can find out more about my book at kimzachman.com or nohamandhamburgers.com. Both sites have more information about the book. I hope you get a chance to read it. Now, I better get back to my cereal because it's getting soggy. So I hope you have a great summer, and remember, feed your brain, read a book. Bye.